So as you guys all know, I've been awake to the politics in Ireland for the last few years and talking a lot about free speech and the curtailing of free speech in England. Recently, they put loads of people in jail for speaking their mind, whether or not be bad or good, guys. You know, the number one law that they have in America, the number one constitutional right is that they have the free speech. And, this is final, guys. Free speech is final. And I've been researching it a ton in Ireland. And of course, they're attempting to clamp down on it with these hate speech laws, whether they be good or bad. It's unconstitutional and incorrect. Okay, everybody knows it, and it's horrendous. Today, one of my loyal patron supporters sent me one of the most impactful videos of all time. Now, I've never even known Rowan Atkinson to talk about politics, but here he is today talking on free speech, which hopefully is going to be amazing. I'm not sure which side he's going to be on even, but everyone's saying it's the most impactful video ever, so I'm guessing he's for free speech. He's pro free speech, so hopefully this one's incredible. Make sure to drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on this one, guys. Of course, I react to a ton of political videos, so go back over my catalog and check out the rest of my videos on politics. They're really insightful and you guys will love them for sure. So let's get straight into it, guys. Let's see what Rowan Atkinson has to say.
My starting point when it comes to the consideration of any issue relating to free speech is my passionate belief that the second most precious thing in life is the right to express yourself freely.
Hey, I love that.
The most precious thing in life, I think, is food in your mouth. And the third most precious is a roof over your head. But a fixture for me in the number 2 slot is free expression, just below the need to sustain life itself.
That's really good, guys. So he puts freedom of speech and suppression of freedom of speech, he puts it at number 2 slot. So number 1, of course, you have to eat, you have to drink water to sustain your life. But even over having shelter over your head, he puts freedom of expression over. That's unbelievable, guys. He puts freedom of expression over the chance of having a nice home and comforting home. That's unbelievable. I would actually agree with him on that one. I actually agree with him. I would actually tie the number 1 spot for freedom of speech and the need to eat, guys. Because really, I would even say your health is number 1. Along with those 3 other things, because your health is the same with the freedom of speech, guys. If you don't have freedom, your health doesn't matter, and if you don't have your good health, then this freedom doesn't matter. So both of those 2 things coincide with each other.
That is because I have enjoyed free expression in this country all my professional life and fully expect to continue to do so. Personally, I suspect highly unlikely to be arrested for whatever laws exist to contain free expression, because of the undoubtedly privileged position that is afforded to those of a high public profile.
Dude, this is unbelievable. So he's saying that because of my high profile status, I will never get arrested for freedom of speech, any hate speech. Maybe because of his money, he's able to fight it in court. But obviously, guys, people are leaner. They're leaner to the people that can afford it, okay? They're less mean. They put less people in jail that are famous. Okay, of course those people always get off, whereas the people that are poor and don't have as much money and don't have as much status, they get put more in jail. Wow, this is amazing.
So my concerns are less for myself and more for those more vulnerable because of their lower profile.
Dang, that's amazing.
Like the man arrested in Oxford for calling a police horse gay. Or the teenager arrested for calling the Church of Scientology a cult. Or the cafe owner arrested for displaying passages from the Bible on a TV screen.
Wow, so these are actually 3 people that got arrested, put in jail for their expression of freedom of speech, guys. Calling somebody gay, you should not go to jail. That's ridiculous, guys. Wow, this is unbelievable, guys. He's really ahead of the curve on this one. And this came out a year ago, just for those wondering. It's got 5 million views. Wow. Unbelievable.
When I heard of some of these more ludicrous offences and charges, I remembered that I had been here before in a fictional context. I once did a show called Not the 9 O'Clock News some years ago, and we did a sketch where Griff Rhys-Jones played Constable Savage, a manifestly racist police officer to whom I, as his station commander, is giving a dressing down for arresting a black man on a whole string of ridiculous trumped up and ludicrous charges. The charges for which Constable Savage arrested Mr. Winston Kadogo of 55 Mercer Road were these: walking on the cracks in the pavement, walking in a loud shirt in a built-up area during the hours of darkness. And
this is genius, bro. This is genius.
One of my favorites, walking around all over the place. He was also arrested for urinating in a public convenience and looking at me in a funny way. Who would have thought that we would end up with a law that would allow life to imitate art so exactly?
Unbelievable.
I read somewhere a defender of the status quo claiming that the fact that the gay horse case was dropped after the arrested man refused to pay the fine, and that the Scientology case was also dropped at some point during the court process, was proof that the law was working well, ignoring the fact that the only reason these cases were dropped was because of the publicity that they had attracted. The police sensed that ridicule was just around the corner and withdrew their actions. But what about the thousands of other cases that did not enjoy the oxygen of publicity?
True, guys. Like, you know, if I have a big, massive million, subscriber YouTube channel and I blast it all over the internet how I'm going to get arrested for something so ludicrous as calling something gay or calling something stupid, that might get me off scot-free. But what about the people that don't publicly announce a lot of their shortcomings and a lot of their bad things that happen to them by the government, guys? These people get put in jail for no reason. It's kind of ridiculous.
Weren't quite ludicrous enough to attract media attention.
True.
Even for those actions that were withdrawn, people were arrested, questioned, taken to court, and then released.
Yeah.
That isn't a law working properly. That is censoriousness of the most intimidating kind, guaranteed to have, as Lord Deer says, a chilling effect on free expression and free protest.
True.
Parliament's Joint Committee on Human Rights summarised, as you may know, this whole issue very well by saying, while arresting a protester for using threatening or abusive speech may, depending on the circumstances, be a proportionate response, we do not think that language or behaviour that is merely insulting should ever be criminalised in this way.
And that's the hate speech laws that they're trying to bring into Ireland, that they're trying to censor, basically laws, they're trying to censor speech that's insulting, which is just lame, guys. That's just lame.
Should ever be criminalised in this way. The clear problem with the outlawing of insult is that too many things can be interpreted as such.
That's the whole thing, guys. There's no fine line. It's an arbitrary line where people choose to cross over, that the police or the government can say, oh, that is hate speech and that's not hate speech. There's no clear definition what certain words, how you say them, whatever, guys, on what is criminally damaging. So very, very confusing law, very insane and archaic, let's just say.
Criticism is easily construed as insult by certain parties. True. Ridicule easily construed as insult. True. Sarcasm, unfavourable comparison, merely stating an alternative point of view to the orthodoxy can be interpreted as insult.
True. And we've had this discussion many, many times on this channel, many, many times in society, where now if a man says that's a boy or that's a man, that's a woman, and someone says biologically that's a fact or whatever, and someone says no, I don't agree with that, you can then be charged for saying that you don't agree with that a man isn't a man and a woman isn't a woman, that you can be whatever, when something is clearly biological, right? So very, 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 very strange how they're going to choose to swing this sort of thing, guys. Very wild.
And because so many things can be interpreted as insult, it is hardly surprising that so many things have been.
True.
As the examples I talked about earlier show. Although the law under discussion has been on the statute book for over 25 years, it is indicative of a culture that has taken hold of the programs of successive governments, that with the reasonable and well-intentioned ambition to contain obnoxious elements in society, has created a society of an extraordinarily authoritarian and controlling nature. That is what you might call the new intolerance, a new but intense desire to gag uncomfortable voices of dissent. I am not intolerant, say many people, say many softly spoken, highly educated, liberal-minded people. I'm only intolerant of intolerance. And people tend to nod sagely and say, oh yes, wise words, wise words. And yet if you think about this supposedly inarguable statement for longer than 5 seconds, you realize that all it is advocating is the replacement of one kind of intolerance with another.
True.
Which to me doesn't represent any kind of progress at all.
True.
Underlying prejudices, injustices or resentments are not addressed by arresting people. They are addressed by the issues being aired, argued and dealt with, preferably outside the legal process. For me, the best way to increase society's resistance to insulting or offensive speech is to allow a lot more of it. As with childhood diseases, you can better resist those germs to which you have been exposed. We need to build our immunity to taking offense so that we can deal with the issues that perfectly justified criticism can raise.
I love that, and we won't be emotional towards them, guys. I love that. That's amazing.
Our priority should be to deal with the message, not the messenger.
True.
As President Obama said in an address to the United Nations only a month or so ago, laudable efforts to restrict speech can become a tool to silence critics or oppress minorities. The strongest weapon against hateful speech is not repression, it is more speech.
True.
And that's the essence of my thesis, more speech. If we want a robust society, we need more robust dialogue, and that must include the right to insult or to offend. And even if, as Lord Deere says, the freedom to be inoffensive is no freedom at all.
That's the truth, guys. People that want to be free men want to see more freedoms and able to say whatever they want, guys. Putting somebody in jail for saying something is ridiculous, guys. If you're so afraid of somebody's speech, then what is it that you're doing so wrong? You know what I mean? Like the dissent and all that type of thing.
Freedom to be inoffensive is no freedom at all. The repeal of this word in this clause will be only a small step, but it will, I hope, be a critical one in what should be a longer-term project to pause and slowly rewind a creeping culture of censoriousness. It is a small skirmish in the battle, in my opinion, to deal with what Sir Salman Rushdie refers to as the outrage industry.
Sure.
Self-appointed arbiters of the public good,
True.
encouraging media-stoked outrage to which the police feel under terrible pressure to react.
True.
A newspaper rings up Scotland Yard. Someone has said something slightly insulting on Twitter about someone who we think a national treasure. What are you going to do about it? And the police panic and they scrabble around and then grasp the most inappropriate lifeline of all, Section 5 of the Public Order Act, that thing where you can arrest anybody for saying anything that might be construed by anyone else as insulting.
True, and we have that in Ireland as well. It's Section 8, I believe. It's basically where you're being, disobedient in a public place or something like that. But that could also include your speech. So we have different sections of the law as well in Ireland. I don't know if it's Section 8 now. I think it might be something else, but it could be Section 5. It could be the same as the UK. I'm not 100% sure, but we do have that same sort of law, guys. It's crazy.
They don't seem to need a real victim. They need only to make the judgment that somebody could have been offended if they had heard or read what has been said. The most ludicrous degree of latitude.
It is a crazy degree of latitude, guys. That's like saying basically, oh, I'm offended by what I read or what I heard. Can you arrest that guy? I mean, how insane has society become now? This is ridiculous, guys.
Or read what has been said. The most ludicrous degree of latitude. The storms that surround Twitter and Facebook comment have raised some fascinating issues about free speech, which we haven't really yet come to terms with. Firstly, that we all have to take responsibility for what we say, which is quite a good lesson to learn.
True.
But secondly, we've learned how appallingly prickly and intolerant society has become of even the mildest adverse comment.
True.
The law should not be aiding and abetting this new intolerance.
100%.
Free speech can only suffer if the law prevents us from dealing with its consequences. I offer my wholehearted support to the Reform Section 5 campaign. Thank you very much.
Well, even though he's not even talking about the Free Speech Act, this was actually before, I believe, England brought in these new Free Speech Acts. Now, these are even worse than what he was campaigning against. Okay, he's not even campaigning against not even anything as, you know, bad as what we're campaigning against nowadays. So what we're campaigning against nowadays, which he would be also against, is hate speech laws in Ireland. You know, the new flipping whatever Prime Minister brought in these like sort of hate speech laws in England as well, where people have been gone to jail for inciting the riots, which you shouldn't be inciting anything crazy like that. Of course, I'm against that. But then again, guys, it's kind of speech. Like, you know, if I tell someone to go jump off a cliff and they do that, am I responsible, guys? I don't think your words hold weight when someone else does actions. You know, it just doesn't really, like, I'm not going to do something crazy because somebody tells me to do it or because somebody influences me to do it. So let me know your thoughts. I love you guys all. Don't put people in jail for just speaking their mind. Peace and freedom to all. Stay free. As I say in every single video, stay free. And I'll see you all in the next one, guys. Peace.